Usually when people do talks, or TED Talks specifically, they're usually known as an expert in their field. They're either someone that has unpacked a topic, unraveled it, sat down with it and said, okay, cool, I really need to be a doctorate in this specific topic. And unfortunately, plot twist, I'm not that babe. Actually, I am not a leading expert yet. I'm not a doctor yet, but I am an expert in my experience. Specifically being the eldest daughter, hence the picture. Quite scary. I was actually at a party and everyone kept on sending me everywhere and I was very frustrated. And the number one question I had was, why do they keep on making me cook? I'm not here for that. Hopefully today I want to challenge your notions on how information is delivered, on how information is portrayed and shared. Hopefully I give you an understanding of what eldest daughter syndrome is and what specifically we can find of nuances in between the topic itself. So let's talk about an anecdote, obviously, do a relatable story. We're in a cost of living crisis, obviously. And one thing as an eldest daughter, we have to figure out is our finances. How do we go on the TfL, Transport for London, hence why I'm late. Now that's my day today. But then my brother calls me, my youngest brother, the young man here, obviously doing chores. He calls me and he says, Deborah, lend me a £5, please. Bearing in mind, I only have £10 in my account. Yeah, of course. So he calls me and asks me, can I have a £5? Now, usually a normal person would say, okay, no, because I have £10. I, being the eldest daughter and trying not to instill trauma onto my brother, I decide to give him that £5, which is great. Now, the reason why I bring this picture on the board is because in an African household, Saturday is chores day. No matter what. You can be 6, you can be 26. It doesn't matter what age you are, you must complete your chores. Now, my brother is 5 years old in this picture, and the person taking the picture is me, because I'm laughing at the fact that finally, you have to do chores day. Now, the reason why I bring this all up is because as the eldest daughter, we find ourselves doing things that are tiring, we find ourselves doing things that are weary, and when we get the opportunity to instill it on our younger siblings, it's like glory, it's brilliant. We finally get a chance to take a break. Now, let me go down to definitions, just so we can get an understanding of why I decided to pick this topic. Specifically, birth order theory, popularized by the psychologist called Alfred Adler, he talks about a concept in which being the eldest, being a middle child, or being a younger sibling perpetuates or suggests a particular type of characteristic. So, in my case, as the eldest, I'll be known as someone that is responsible, someone, not to boast of myself up, but someone that is responsible, someone that is a natural leader. A middle child is usually considered as someone that's overlooked, whereas a younger child, as my younger sister is here, will be seen as a carefree spirit who doesn't care nonsense about the world. When people think of syndromes, it's nothing good. Even the word syndrome even sounds icky. Like when we think of syndrome, we usually think of an autoimmune disease or an autoimmune disorder. But whenever we think of eldest daughter syndromes, it sounds so heavy. And hopefully by the end of today's talk, I actually show you that being the eldest is not that bad. Sometimes it actually has some beauty to it. When we talk about eldest daughter syndrome, I think what Adler does really good is he's able to actually identify things that we take on in our adulthood. When I think of eldest daughter syndrome, I think of 3 things. I think of the responsibility that we carry. I think of how we're not really able to ask for help. And I think about people pleasing. Now, for a normal person, they're probably thinking, Deborah, this doesn't sound cute. Why would I want to be a people pleaser? Cool. Responsibilities, let's unpack that. Usually, as an eldest daughter, my responsibility is to make sure that the household is running. And the reason why it's so good and the reason why there's a beauty in that is because you actually become what my friends call project manager. Become the person who's able to arrange stuff, who's able to make things move. The second point, which is about people pleasing. Now, unfortunately, as you noticed with my brother, being a people pleaser means, unfortunately, I don't always choose myself first. I don't always put myself first. I don't always have the opportunity to pick what is for me. But again, with the nuances, I think what's good about putting people first, people feel like they're being seen, which is super important. And the third and final thing is asking for help. Now, my best friend's in the room and he knows more than ever. I absolutely hate asking for help. But now I've realized in adulthood, there's actually beauty in asking for help.
it's actually necessary to ask for help. If I'm speaking biblically, the scripture talks about where 2 or 3 are gathered. So there's an importance with community.
But again, with the nuances, I think what's good about putting people first is people realize you care. People realize you want them to be in the room. People feel like they're being seen, which is super important. And the third and final thing is asking for help. Now, my best friend's in the room and he knows more than ever. I absolutely hate asking for help. The young man here, obviously doing chores. Yeah. He calls me and he says, Deborah, lend me a £5, please. Bearing in mind, I only have £10 in my account. Yeah, of course. Because again, cost of living crisis, brilliant. So he calls me and asks me, can I have a £5? Now, usually a normal person would say, okay, no, because I have £10. If I take away 5, I only have 5. And as we all know, the cap of TFL right now is £10. Regardless, I, being the eldest daughter and trying not to instill trauma onto my brother, I decide to give him that £5, which is great. Now, the reason why I bring this picture on the board is because in an African household, Saturday is chores day. No matter what. You can be 6, you can be 26. It doesn't matter what age you are, you must complete your chores. Now, my brother is 5 years old in this picture, and the person taking the picture is me, because I'm laughing at the fact that finally you have to do chores day. Now, the reason why I bring this all up is because as the eldest daughter, we find ourselves doing things that are tiring, we find ourselves doing things that are weary, and when we get the opportunity to instill it on our younger siblings, it's like glory, it's brilliant. We finally get a chance to take a break. Now, let me go down to definitions, just so we can get an understanding of why I decided to pick this topic. Specifically, birth order theory, popularized by the psychologist called Alfred Adler, he talks about a concept in which being the eldest, being a middle child, or being a younger sibling perpetuates or suggests a particular type of characteristic. So, in my case, as the eldest, I'll be known as someone that is responsible, someone, not to boast of myself up, but someone that is responsible, someone that is a natural leader. A middle child is usually considered as someone that's overlooked, whereas a younger child, as my younger sister is here, will be seen as a carefree spirit who doesn't care nonsense about the world. Now, what's good about that theory is it suggests that particular characteristics encourage family dynamics, which is good, which is great as a very broad concept. Now, specifically going on to the syndrome, usually, and unfortunately with EDS, when we go into adulthood, we find that these 3 things actually lead us to continue to be more tired, continue to be more weary, continue to be more strained. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, for some they be hating on us, but unfortunately we become the perfectionists, we become the overachievers, we become the peacemakers, we become the people that ultimately sacrifice ourselves so that way you can be okay. Now, it's funny, to add to EDS itself, if you can go on to the next slide for me. Thank you. As I mentioned, to add to EDS itself, when Adler describes being overlooked as a middle child, when Adler also describes being a younger sibling and being someone that is carefree and someone that is not so, they don't care. As you can see by this picture, all of us are carefree. I obviously set the trend, that's why we're going like that, which is fine. But I think there's a beauty in being the eldest sibling as well. What you notice is you're able to influence your siblings to be different versions of themselves. You're able to encourage them to show a part of themselves that you didn't necessarily get the opportunity to do when you were growing up. As I mentioned, adultification and parentification, very Cation words. Don't worry, it's very simple. In EDS, broad term, just a broad general, a broad general umbrella term, to be specific. To add to EDS itself, we talk about adultification. Adultification specifically means the ability to be able to treat someone as an adult or treat someone as though they are older than they are. Hence why when you associate adultification, we talk about maturity. When I was growing up, the one thing mum would always say, not to shout at my mum, but the one thing mum would always say is, please, you are growing up now, you're no longer a child. And I think that's something that we hear a lot in culture. We hear a lot of the statement that, hey, you are growing up, you need to grow up. Now, I know some kids are probably looking at their mums like, Mum, yeah, stop saying that, yeah? It's good. The reason why it's so good as an eldest daughter, for her saying that, is because you begin to realize, actually, the world out there is quite scary. And I know that's the nuance that I'm trying to present.
that not every time whenever your parents try and treat you like adults is a bad thing. But what I will say is that I didn't get an opportunity to really be a child. As a poet, I write about a line how the best thing about being the eldest is the fact that you were always chosen last. The good thing about adultification sometimes is that you realize that you actually continue to look beyond what people present. When in classrooms, I would know when someone's off. When in rooms or seminars, you know when something's not really on it. As believers, sometimes we call that discernment, the ability to be able to really know what's happening in the room. With parentification, the reason why EDS adds both of them is parentification talks about responsibility. As an eldest daughter, my responsibility is to make sure my siblings are safe, no matter what. Now, examples go down to even just what secondary school should they pick? Where do you think they should go? What kind of friends do you think they should pick?
And regardless, those two add to EDS because as an eldest daughter, there's an unspoken pressure to keep up with everything. There's an unspoken pressure to be the first. There's an unspoken pressure, and we have a running joke actually in our friends that I'll be the first to drive, first to marry, first to whatever. But even in that as well, it still adds to there being an unspoken pressure.
Now, with the nuances itself, you've probably seen this wonderful woman. Genetics are strong. I got it too as well, which is fine. But the wonderful lady behind me is my mum.
I bring her up because I want to specifically talk about why I brought up nuances. I think with EDS is very oversimplified with Adler. I think he presumes that just because you're in a specific birth order or just because you've been born in a certain time, that automatically presumes that you will be a specific characteristic or you will act in a particular way in order for your parents to see you the way how they need to. But with being in a single parent household, I think the one thing that I've noticed is they sacrifice a lot, full stop. Sacrifice time, sacrifice food, sacrifice, you know. And as an eldest daughter, I've realized that it's not a bad thing to sacrifice. It's not a bad thing, unfortunately, to put yourself second sometimes. Obviously, be wise, don't be, wherever. But it's important to realize as she's sacrificing her day-to-day, her money, her time, her ability to be able to show up, her ability to be able to care, whilst also being the father and mother at the same time. That's something that I would not change for the world.
But I'm Sierra Leone, and one thing we always talk about as being a woman is the gender roles. As a woman, you're supposed to be the cook, you're supposed to be the helpmate, you're supposed to be the one that supports other people, you're supposed to show up, even if the auntie and uncle is super jarring and they get on your nerves. As the eldest, you're supposed to be the default help. And the nuance with that is realizing that actually in being the help, you're recognized. In our culture, when you're the first one to be called, it's actually seen as a blessing. It's seen as an honor to be called first. And the third and final nuance is romantics. Now, as I said, I'm not married, but God willing, do you get? But I think even as an eldest daughter, our standards are different. The way how we look and approach dating, the way how we look and approach our partners or men, women, whoever you like, that doesn't matter, but it's more a thing of the way how we approach our romantic partners changes, because we realize that we don't necessarily want to be the one to be the project manager. We don't want to be the one to lead, be dragging the household. We don't want to be tired in our marriages. We don't want to be worn out in our marriages. Rather, we actually look to find another version of a project manager, someone that will keep their word, someone that will show up when we call them to show up, which is super, super important. So yeah, I bring this wonderful lady in front of you because, again, I don't mind being tired for her. I don't mind being weary for her. I don't mind being, I don't mind being upset for her. Even on the way here, I said, Mum, not gonna lie, hey, not really trying to do it. But the dynamic between us has changed because of two reasons. I think one, with single parent households, you notice that unfortunately, we have to work together. We have to keep on working together, or else the household cannot keep up. We realize that, and as unfortunate as it is, we become each other's partners, partners in a way, partners for her and a partner that she's not been able to find yet, but also a partner for me, someone that's a confidant, someone that I can rely on, someone that will travel all the way to Royal Holloway, 2 hours away, and make sure we're here on time. But regardless.
Cool, solutions as a final kind of wrap up. As an eldest daughter, I know it's considered a syndrome, I know it seems dreary, but the solutions that I present to you are twofold. One being, find your inner child. please, if you can, find the things you love doing. Find the things that make you smile. Find the things that make you laugh. Find the things that just give that little spark of joy. For me, I've started painting. Now I'm absolutely terrible at it. Absolutely terrible. Like, I could draw a stickman if they paid me £500,000. But regardless, I love painting. I love dancing. So if you can find your inner child, find it again. The second thing as well, which I will probably encourage, is rest without guilt. Now, resting doesn't necessarily connote sleeping. Rest doesn't necessarily mean stand still. You can rest in playing sports. You can rest in being able to, I don't know, do yoga. You can rest in dancing. That is a nuanced, fine form of rest.
And the third and final thing, which again, parents, please don't fight me. Sometimes rebellion is okay, you know? Sometimes it's actually all right. Sometimes say no. Sometimes break a little bit so that way there's healing later. Me and my mum have actually found the beauty in being able to know that sometimes coming home from work, I need 5 minutes. I just need 5 minutes to take off my shoes, to just breathe and, you know, digest. And same with her. I tell her, Mum, take 5 minutes. Because that allows us both to be able to really just get a grip of what's going on. So, 2 things before I wrap up. The questions that I always want to leave with you are I think as I was exploring this topic, I realized that I find myself questioning, okay, 1, how do I avoid the feeling of feeling guilt by choosing myself first? How do I not betray myself? I think that's something that even as I'm growing up, I hope to learn. And then the second question I find myself questioning is, believers in particular, we find ourselves being called to selflessness, but how does one not feel the conviction of being too selfish? How do we find a balance between the two? And again, it's not questions that you have to answer now, but there are questions that I want to leave with you. So, to wrap up, I'd like to say 2 things. 1, I want to thank you all so much. I want to thank God, period, for giving me the opportunity to speak and do my first ever TED, which is crazy. And second, I want to thank you all for listening to my TED Talk.